What's up, everybody? I'm JS Garrett, and I'm here with a good friend of mine named Kendall that most of you probably know. You've seen his live streams, his content, as well as the publications and the compendiums that Become a Living God is putting out now. And yeah, I'm excited to jump on and chat with this guy because I think we work on a lot of similar things, and this should be a great conversation. How you doing, Connor?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I mean, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, is jump on with you. I mean, I've seen some of the great work you do, man, and I definitely appreciate it, you know, the work that you put out there. So to jump on and have this conversation is something awesome.
Hell yeah, man! I've been looking forward to chatting with you as well. I've like I said, I've listened to like some of your videos and live streams and podcasts, and I think we walk very similar paths. So I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, man, most definitely, most definitely.
So as far as what we're going to get into today, we wanted to talk about healing a little bit. That's something that both you and I work on a lot for clients as well as people in our personal life, and I'm sure that we'll get into some other content as well. We'll just let that evolve organically. So as far as healing goes, can you tell us a little bit about what your approach is to that practice?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, now me, I'm a bit of an extremist when it comes to magic, I suppose. My own approach. I don't like taking one route. Never have. I like combining all successful methods that I've used. If I use a method and I see success with it repeatedly, then I'll take that method and I'll keep that method. And if I have other methods like this, then I'll see if I can combine them and make them work together. I mean, a lot of people see magic as an art, but I like to see it as a science also. You know, it's an illogical science. That's the way that I put it. And when I do this, I like to experiment with different systems. So depending on my client and depending on their ailment, I'll tailor the actual methods of healing to them. For example, I like to build a ritual for someone's specific ailment. I won't use a ritual that I have, this one ritual. I'll build these rituals. And if someone comes to me with a specific ailment, you know, I'll add in all different methods. I'll add in contagious magic, sympathetic magic, candle magic, energy work. I'm talking about even evocation of demonic entities, you know, even soul travel, actually soul traveling to the person and pulling their essence to my temple. I mean, just like your ritual with the rite of deification, summoning a living person, bringing them to the temple, actually cleansing the spiritual anatomy itself, sending that spirit back as if it was an actual entity. And when that comes back into the flesh, it carries that essence, almost like with spiritual surgeons in a way. You know, we've taken someone's energy body, we've cut into there, we've taken this out, we've put this in with the help of other intelligences and other forces. And then as that goes back to the individual's body, it starts to have a domino effect. You know, it starts to affect their physical self, their mental, emotional, and physical self. So I'll use all different techniques, really. I don't like to stick to one thing. If it's something like mental health, my approach will be different. If it's an actual serious physical ailment, then I'll get into many methods of magic. So I'll create, now I know you like doing this, I create jar spells. I'll actually, you know, add in consecrated herbs, seals, sigils, elixirs. I'll use that as my very source of healing energy, you know, and then I've got to actually prepare myself, because if I'm carrying energies inside of me that are haphazardous or contradictory to what I'm trying to do, then that can cause a massive fuck up, really. So what I'll do is I'll prepare myself with those energies, those healing energies that are required inside of myself. I'll have this jar spell as an external source of that power and energy. I'll call on entities. I'll use various different methods, man, to get that success.
Yeah, dude, that's spot on. That's awesome. That's pretty much exactly what I do. Every ritual that I do for a person, as far as healing, is custom tailored to them. And I want to know as much as possible about what it is I'm trying to heal, because if I know the part of the body that the ailment is originating from, then I can target that specifically. So if it's mental illness, then I'll research what part of the brain is generating that illness, and that's what I will focus on. And what you touched on too, as far as evoking the spirit of the person, actually calling their spirit out of body to your temple. That's, as far as healing at a distance, that's been probably the most effective method that I've used. And I kind of figured this out through doing the rite of deification for people, because I always tell people, always follow up with them. I want to know that my clients are happy and that my work is successful. And if it's not, then I want to know what needs to change about that and fix the problem. And so when people would give me feedback, they would say, after, I woke up the next day and, my back wasn't hurting anymore, or I'm not getting headaches anymore. My liver's doing better. Their physical ailments would improve. And that wasn't even my intention originally. That's just was a side effect of that ritual. And so I started really considering, like, what is it? What exactly is healing? Okay, so healing is all self-healing. Your body heals itself. And when you take a pill to get rid of an illness, you're giving your body what it needs to heal itself, whatever that chemical reaction is, in order to make your body produce the right chemicals and release the right hormones, et cetera, or kill that infection. It's all self-healing. So by transferring a massive amount of energy into a person, into their physical body, you're giving them the tool that they need for their body to heal themselves. And so that's a really effective method. And through evocation of not just people, but incorporating the evocation of spirits, you can petition that entity to focus on a specific part of the body. And for mental illness especially, that's a very effective method, because that's actually one of the easier things to fix. These entities, like, for instance, like Ishtar, Raphael, they are powerful enough to manipulate physical matter on a subatomic level. So if it's a problem with neurons or chemicals and hormones in the brain, it's really not that hard for them to fix. And one of the main things people suffer from is anxiety, like crippling anxiety, especially magicians before they really hone their practice. I was one of those. I suffered with lifelong anxiety up until my first successful evocation. And I woke up the next day, and that was like the first morning I ever didn't dread the sun coming up. I'm like, this is weird. Like, I'm excited to go live my life today, and I'm not having this, whatever that feeling was. I didn't even know that I suffered from anxiety, because that was my regular state of mind. So I always had it, and I didn't notice it until it was gone. So that everything you touched on right there, using different methods, different systems, different entities from different systems, and custom tailoring it to the person. There's no one shot fix all for everybody. It's got to be individualized.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. I mean, see, the interesting thing was, I'd been doing evocation for a very long time, and I kind of almost evoked an actual person by accident at once. It was a spontaneous thing. And when it happened, I kind of questioned my sanity a bit, because, I mean, I had summoned entities before, but the fact that I had summoned a person, I was like, okay, no. This just has to be imagined now. This cannot be real. How am I summoning a live person? And it was through using fetish links to this one person. I had so many that I could draw their essence and keep drawing their essence. But instead of connecting to the essence to affect them, I was drawing their essence here and now. And that spiraled up into a coalescence in the incense smoke, just like when an entity would rise. And I seen the person, and I was like, oh, okay, holy shit. And basically, I had actually consciously tried to do that again, and I used a different approach this time. And I started improving upon it. And then ages later, man, I see your ritual of deification, and I was like, holy shit. I'm not insane. I'm not crazy. Someone else is having the exact experience. This guy right here, J.S. Garrett, I got to look into this. And I started reading it, man, about how you actually tailored that ritual, how you actually would call the person into the ritual, how you would elicit the help of other entities, a whole layout. And I was like, this is some impressive fucking work. So when I seen that, that was more validation for me to really to really take that practice of summoning live people, and I wanted to see what else I could do with it. Now, it worked tremendously for healing. And I was like, okay, let's see what else this can be used for. I was like, can it be used in a baneful setting? And indeed it can. You know,
yes.
summoning a target, man, actually pulling them before me. There was a ritual that I had with, I believe it was Azazel, Lucifer, and Baal, these three entities. And it was a actual curse where you would summon the person into a triangle, into a consecrated triangle that would act like a imprisonment to that person. And the way that it happens is almost as if these three entities are actually chaining the person in hellfire before you. And then and there, you can do whatever you want to that person, chained before you, send them forth, and whatever baneful energies, whatever attack you're doing, sending that person forth to their body, watch the repercussions. I mean, watch how that unfolds. So, I mean, healing is a topic which has been done for, I mean, hundreds of, if not thousands of years. I mean, healing is something that I found really interesting. I got into it before Magick, actually. I actually used to do Tai Chi at a local community center. And I thought it was just Kung Fu, right? You know, I wanted to learn some martial art, just kick some ass type of thing. And when I got into it, I had my master, Shifu, there, standing there. And he was doing all these weird breathing exercises. Now I'm a kid. I'm giggling, you know?
Yeah.
What the fuck's this motherfucker doing, you know? Hyperventilating, standing in the middle of the room. And he calls like 4 other people to come run at him. Just come attack him. And these people aren't going slow, man. They're giving it everything they got. And he's standing there gracefully, calm. And he's moving very gently. He's moving like water, like a current. And he's knocking these people left, right, and center. He's barely touching them, but he's hitting them across the room. I was like, how are you having that much force with this slow of a contact? I started speaking to him. I was like, what is this? And he was like, it's Tai Chi. It's manipulation of your Chi energies. I was like, oh yeah, teach me that. He said, what do you mean teach you that? And I'm like, teach me that. He's like, you haven't even got your first belt in Kung Fu yet, and you want to go on to knocking people across the room. He's like, it's not just used for that. It's a vital energy inside of you, that yin and yang, that masculine, feminine energies, the light and the dark, and how to harness that and raise your Chi. And as I started working on raising my own Chi in Kung Fu, that was the first time I had any experience with actually feeling energy. I mean, I had always been interested in magic, but never took it into a practical sense. Kung Fu was actually the thing that led me to use my own energies. And then when I found out you can heal with Tai Chi, with that energy, and you can also destroy with it, I started combining all these methods. I mean, I combined Tai Chi with magic, and then I combined all these other methods. And I think that's what's great now about these modern practitioners, like people like us, like black magicians. We can take from all different cultures and traditions and look at them and go, okay, let's take away the bullshit. Let's take away the systematic approach and all this stuff. And let's just get to what actually works. I mean, what is the thing that makes this work? And once we really strip it to its bare necessities, and then we use it, and then we incorporate it into our own practice, I mean, you can make miracles happen. So, yeah, man, it was very interesting, like summoning a person and having that effect. Now, I was obsessed with seeing how far this could be pushed. But before I could heal anyone, I had to heal myself, because I've always said, if you can't do something for yourself, then you can't do it for anyone else. How dare you charge people for it if you can't do it yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, I got into some very intense healing work on myself. It took me months, because I have a long history of mental health, CPTSD, insomnia, anxiety, depression. So I had to get into healing those ailments in myself. And once I felt how incredible life was without those things, I mean, I started here. I shed tears. I was crying like a bitch. And I wanted to give that to other people, to people that couldn't do that for themselves, or just didn't have the time to do it for themselves. And then when I got into healing work specifically, I had felt a whole other level of enjoyment. You know, I mean, I can do rituals for people. Yeah, all right, you want to bring someone to you that you love, fair enough. You want to do this, you want to do that. But when you're healing with someone, it's like you're working with them on the intimate level. It's like having them there with you. And like you said, you've got to really understand the body before you start healing, because you'll get many practitioners that are just energy workers, these light workers, and they'll just put their hands over people, touch a chakra and go, just vibrating mantras and say, yeah, you're done now. And I'm like, well, not really. I mean, it's a lot deeper than that. Understanding what's wrong with the person, actually understanding, is it a chemical imbalance? Is it hereditary? Is it an accident? How does the body heal this thing on its own? And like you said, by pushing a large amount of energy into that target and into that specific location, you can begin to speed up the process. Your body heals itself anyway, but if we can do something to speed up that process and even increase the ferocity of the healing, then that's great. And I believe that's what healing is. There are some ailments that the body has difficulty healing. So what can we do as healers to alleviate that? And I mean, just healing is fascinating to me, man.
Yeah, you know, same here. That's always been like my drug of choice when it comes to magic. Really, is trying to work miracles for people in the art of healing. And something you touched on there too, that very interesting to me. I've come to the same conclusion about magic being a martial art. Like that's how I look at my practice. I look at it as a martial art. And after I came to that conclusion, I started thinking, okay, well, what would be the best, you know, because I've done a few different types of martial arts growing up. And like, what would be the best martial arts system to help me with my magic? And after researching all of them, I'm like, it's got to be Tai Chi. So I've actually been looking for a Tai Chi dojo in my area to go learn that, because I think it would really help me all around with my magic. I haven't found one yet, but I'm still looking. I kind of lived in like the hills, you know, like a real hill dude, like out in the middle of nowhere. So I might have to drive a little ways to find one of those. But that's really cool that's kind of what brought you into your practice, is that type of martial art. And the other thing that you touched on is the fact that the technique of evoking a person can also be weaponized. I actually recently filmed a video course that I call Reverse Deification, that's about to be dropping here pretty soon. What I did, you know, like I noticed first of all that with the deification rite, that provided the fastest results out of any ritual I'd ever done for somebody, because it cut out all the middlemen. I was pushing I was giving a large amount of energy to that person's spirit and then sending it back to their body, and then that transfers physically. A lot of times most of the time they will feel that energy the very next day. And I'm like, okay, well, how can I weaponize this? Because that would be like the most devastating curse that I could perform. And so I don't really make a habit out of cursing people. I don't look for people to curse. I'll defend myself if I have to. But once in a while, somebody comes to me with like a case of pedophilia or something like that, where I'm like, okay, this is very justified, and yes, they deserve to be my guinea pig. So so shortly after I came to that conclusion about reverse deifying somebody, I got one of those clients. It was a very disturbing case that nearly made me puke just hearing about it. And I'm like, okay, I definitely have the rage just from hearing that to go and perform this rite. So what I did was I set up everything like I normally would for the rite of deification, but instead of summoning protective spirits, I summoned baneful spirits to hold space around the circle, like you were talking about. And then I began to evoke this asshole. And I got a very strong manifestation. It was like the demons drugged this son of a bitch to my ritual circle and constrained him in the triangle. And so once he was there, instead of empowering him with the blood of a sacrifice, I had printed off his photo and I put 13 drops of doom oil, which is a voodoo oil that is very toxic, used in Baneful magic. And then I sprinkled the photo with goofer dust, which is some of the deadliest, if it's real goofer dust, is some of the deadliest shit you can put on somebody. And I offered that to his spirit into the fire and then dismissed him. So what I did was I poisoned his soul and then sent it back to his body so that could transfer into the physical body. And that worked. That was scary, the effects that ritual had. that he will never be molesting another child. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, so I thought long and hard about whether or not to put that out there, but I figure that we're all adults, and we can make our own decisions and our own judgment calls. So anything that can be used to heal somebody can also be used to harm someone. And I'm sure that there are magicians that will abuse that power, but that is their right to do so. And so yeah, I'm putting that out to the world. So it's really, I don't think I've talked about that on a podcast or anything yet. So it's really fucking cool that you figured that out on your own, and they're already doing that, because nobody's seen this video course yet. so we're definitely doing similar stuff.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I mean, like I said, when I see that method, if you can evoke someone, have that much of an effect, I'm like, well, it can be used in a healing sense, it can be used in a weaponized sense. Damn, man, I started using that in almost different varieties and forms of magic, not just healing and not just Baneful. I mean, when I do something like a love rite for someone, I'll actually call two people forth. I mean, I'll call these two individuals forth and almost be like a priest initiating a marriage. You know, I bring these two people before me and now I bind them. And it's a very interesting concept when you can do it like that. I mean, when I started doing this, like I said, I thought I was really insane. I was like, people are evoking demons, angels, gods, and elementals. You hear, oh, evoking John from down the street. He sounded ridiculous at first. And then when I seen that you were doing it, and then when I seen the similarities of your work and mine, I was like, oh shit, okay, there's something to this. I started going towards that form of magic with a aggressive sense, and then I seen the amount of cases that I had put in my journal. I had done this ritual, I got a success. I had done this ritual, I got a success. In the end, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep using this. I mean, it just has to be done. So yeah, it's awesome that that we're having those similar experiences. I mean, for me, that's validation right there, that this type of stuff works. I mean, the fact that we're all doing this. And not just that, like from soul travel, like when you travel to the mental plane and you really plug yourself into the source of all consciousness, sometimes if two people are vibrating on a specific frequency, a certain vibration, then indeed you're on the same wavelength. So what probably happened, brother, is you were on the same wavelength, I was on the same wavelength, and indeed we were coalesced into that source of all intelligence, and we were channeling these things, but just in our different way. Like I say, in magic, you've really got to find your own flavor. You know, you've got to find your own approach, something which really resonates with you. So yeah, man, I find that awesome that indeed you done that. I mean, you took it to a whole other level, though. I mean, when I seen the fact of like the circle, the triangle, the entities, the animal sacrifice, I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, I got to step up my game. Fuck me. Okay, this step up my game, and most definitely I did. So I'm kind of interested. You know, what was for you? What was the most potent healing rite? What was the most potent result you had in healing?
Okay, well, I've got two examples. One is healing someone at a distance, and the most insane instance was actually having their physical body in the circle. Okay, so I might have talked about this on a podcast a long time ago, but I had a friend who had broken a bone in the top of her foot, in the top of her left foot, and the bone had like lodged sideways and started to calcify, and she couldn't feel her toes. She could not move her toes. The doctors were going to go in and do surgery to re-break the bone and reset it. And, you know, she obviously did not want to do that. So she knew a little bit about what I did, and she called me and was like, hey, you know, you come lay some magic on my foot. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's possible, but I'm willing to try it if you're willing to fucking lay in the circle and let me do it. So yeah, I go over to her house with my wife. My wife does most of my ritual work with me. We're a very tight pair, and that's when the most incredible miracles happen when we're working together. And so her husband was a total skeptic. You know, he's sitting there like snickering while I'm laying out the circle and setting the ritual space. And I'm like, yeah, I love a skeptic because they're the ones that take off running when the spirit shows up. So I had her. I used the universal circle that the EA created, and I took a makeshift triangle and laid it in the middle. So it looked a lot like the deification circle that I used. It was the universal one. I had her prop her foot up right in the center of the triangle. And I took a makeup pen and drew the sigil of Raphael on her foot over the broken bone. And I drew the sigil on a piece of paper and stuck it to the ceiling and told her to stare into that while I did the ritual to open her perception to Raphael, because this is a type of possession that we were instigating here. And so I prick my finger and trace over the sigil in blood. And I'm sitting there charging the sigil, speaking the evocation of Raphael. And whenever he descends into the room, that is a presence that is undeniable. It scares a lot of people, but until they experience it, realize it's a good thing. It's a very intense thing. And so once he showed up, he kind of took over. It was like I was in a state of possession myself, like a puppet. And so at the end of the ritual, I was compelled to kneel down in front of her and just set both my hands on top of her foot. And as soon as I did that, I felt like my whole body caught on fire. It got really hot, and I felt like I was engulfed in flames. I wasn't in pain; it was just very, very hot. And that heat started moving down my arms into her foot, and then all of the muscles and tendons in her foot started jumping, and it felt like water boiling underneath her skin. Then she starts screaming. Okay, my wife's sitting there holding her with her head in her lap, and she's got her foot propped up. She starts thrashing around and writhing in pain, and that bone popped so loud that everybody in the room heard it, and I felt that bone move about 1/8 of an inch underneath the skin. And the whole thing, the painful instance, it only lasted like 15, 20 seconds. But as soon as it was over, she had no pain in her foot, she could move and feel her toes again. And she went back to the doctor, and they re-x-rayed it and did not have to do surgery. They were like, we don't know how to explain this. Your foot's fine. Not only that, but it's already calcified. And it takes like 7 weeks tops for a broke bone to calcify. She went back to the doctor like 4 days after I did the ritual, and it was almost completely calcified. So that was the craziest in-person experience I've had. One of the most mind-blowing successes I've had at a distance was a heart patient. This guy had a heart attack when he was younger. He survived it, but his heart was totally fucked. And he's basically sitting around waiting on the big one to take him out. And so what I did was I performed the deification rite, but I combined it with an evocation of Raphael also. So what I did was I laid out the circle, I evoked Raphael, I petitioned him on this man's behalf to heal his heart. And then I made a sacrifice to Raphael and asked him to remain present, while I then immediately turned around and evoked the spirit of my client into the triangle to stand in the flames with Raphael, and then made a sacrifice to him as well. And I commanded his spirit to utilize all that energy to rejuvenate that heart, rejuvenate the organ. And he reported back to me within 3 days, saying that he had a brand new heart, is what it felt like. He had no more high blood pressure, no more heart palpitations, no more erratic heartbeats, and he was feeling better than he had felt in a very long time. So that was pretty incredible as far as healing someone at a distance.
That's amazing, brother. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's definitely amazing. So when you're talking about actually having someone there and you healed them, I mean, that's incredible. I did this once with a cousin of mine. So now I had a cousin who suffered really bad epileptic fits. And I'm talking about really bad. She was autistic too. And it became very difficult for her mother, my auntie, to really deal with it. I mean, it was getting worse. And the medication that she was on for her autism only seemed to worsen the situation. So what I did was I thought, okay, what can I do myself? What can I actually do here to stop these epileptic fits? Because I have to really narrow down where it comes from. So I started looking into the mental health. I started looking into the actual thing that causes these epileptic fits and these seizures. And I was targeting, like you said, like looking at a map of the brain. And I was like, okay, so it's here, this here, that here. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try something. And one day she had a fit, and I was in the house that night. We were staying over. We were having a bit of a party. And she was upstairs. She starts having a fit. And her mother runs up there. She's crying her eyes out. You know, it's very difficult to deal with. And I go up there, and I lay her down, and I calm her down. And she's slowly starting to calm down. And I just put both of my hands on either side of her head. And I start actually getting in touch with the energies that are inside her. And I wanted to sort of feel out where this energy is intensifying in her being while she's having this fit, while she's having this epileptic fit. And I was like, okay, so I'm starting to feel something here. And I start really allowing myself to actually pull that energy into myself. Now, here's the thing. I understand that in healing, when you start pulling these toxic energies and these dangerous energies, it can be rather dangerous. I took it on for myself. And indeed, I weren't having an epileptic fit, but I was twitching. And I just felt weird in myself in general. Like everything was very disorientated. My body was jumping everywhere. So I spoke to my auntie and I said, would you allow me to try and help her? She knew exactly what I was talking about. And she was like, whatever it takes, really, just try something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I was like, okay, sure. And I brought her into the room. She lied down. And just like you, I grabbed my universal circle out. I lay it out on the ground. And I started doing this healing ritual. And what was very interesting was she would have a epileptic fit or seizure every couple of weeks. And I'm talking about like some really intense ones where her mother was actually fearing for the life of her own child. Wow. And she didn't want to leave her alone. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to give it my all here. So I did. And a couple days down the line, not only did I notice that the epileptic fits had not entirely stopped, but had become less intense, and she was actually able to call her mother while she was having one of these episodes. She could feel it, almost as if there was some alarm system which was now in place inside of her before she would have it, and she would immediately call her mother or text her mother. So when she's on her own and she's having these fits, indeed someone could be there for her. And over the course of the years, these fits just stopped. I mean, she still had autism. She still had all these other ailments. But at the same time, it seemed that this one aspect had just completely nullified. And I was giving her some meditations to do too. Because for something like this, for something like a long-term condition, you want to give the person that you're working on the tools to not only keep this success going, but to calm themselves too. Because the meditation is often designed to get someone in a receptive state for the healing. It's often designed to, like they have no idea that in the end they are doing the healing themselves. That I started it, and now they're furthering it. And indeed, it gets to a point where they aren't conscious of it, but now they're healing themselves. You know, they're furthering that. So to me, that was an intense experience because it was with an actual person who I really cared about. You know, it was that real intimacy with that person. It got really emotional. And yeah, I mean, she's doing better now than she ever has before. So I would probably say that's one of my personal intense moments. I mean, I've had my clients have had intense moments and intense healing rights done on them and successes. But for me personally, when you can do that to a member of your own family and you have that emotional immersion, I suppose, it's very intense, man, to say the very least.
Yeah, it's done out of pure love. It really is. And the more emotion that you generate in that ritual, I mean, when your thoughts and actions marry your emotions, that's when we perform miracles. And I've noticed even doing like healing rites for people that I don't know very well, in that moment that I'm doing that ritual, I have nothing but love for that person. And it's weird because I'm not an emotional person. I never really have been, but there's real power in that. And whenever you're combating an illness, like say cancer or a virus, that's when love and hatred work together. And that's when I've really done a lot of incredible things, because say you're trying to heal a loved one of say a tumor. Okay, your love for that person is what is the reason why you're doing that ritual. And then you turn your hatred towards the disease, towards the tumor that you're attacking. And it's the hatred of that disease that is killing that person that you have love for. So it fuels you in a way that you could only experience if you were in actual physical combat to protect a loved one. And I've been able to heal things like that through exorcism and through execration magic. Use baneful magic to heal somebody. And an example of this is a ritual I did for my father. He had a tumor on his shoulder. It was, you know, a little bit bigger than a golf ball, and had been there for a long time. And you know, he told me about it and asked me if there was anything I could do. And so I placed a curse on that tumor to kill it. At first, I spoke an exorcism. I put my hand on top of the tumor and said, I pronounce this exorcism against this tumor. But what I was doing with that exorcism is driving out the energy that was causing the physical manifestation of the tumor in his body to weaken that tumor. And then I placed an execration, a curse upon that tumor to kill it, a death curse on the actual tumor itself. And then performed right behind that a ritual of protection over his physical body. So I was able to isolate that curse to that tumor on his body. And it took 3 months, but that tumor disappeared. It got smaller and smaller and smaller, and now it's gone. And that was, you know, that's an example of how you could heal somebody with baneful magic of something like cancer, or even a virus. If somebody has, for instance, if one of your loved ones, you know, somebody that you spend time around comes down with a virus, like the current coronavirus or the flu, or fucking strep throat, anything like that, try exercising it. You can heal somebody with exorcism. I used the exorcism that I found in Evoking Eternity, written by E.A. Coetting. It's like a general exorcism that wipes. If you speak it in a room, it wipes the entire room clean of energy, you know. And it's also used for protection. You know, that's something you would speak if you were being spiritually attacked, to drive out that energy that's attacking you and protect yourself. And I found that to be very effective also. Have you ever tried to exorcise an illness or disease?
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting when he was saying that, because when I look at these actual diseases or these ailments, I like to look at them as a sentient thing, a living sentient being. I mean, if there was a malevolent entity in somebody's body causing trouble, causing harm, the very first thing you do is an exorcism, right? I mean, everything, if you expand your awareness enough, you'll understand that everything in existence is conscious, and that almost everything to a certain degree carries some form of sentience. So indeed, like you discussed, a tumor, in a sense, is almost sentient. That is an actual living thing.
Yes.
And you can, if you can evoke an entity and banish it and exercise it, you can also do the same with tumors. You can evoke a tumor into someone, you know, just like you could exercise a tumor from someone. Now, I've done that in many cases. So, for example, someone who I knew as a friend, he had these kidney stones, and they weren't passing, the way they should have been. And they said that this was causing a huge trouble in his body. And from this, it was so strange. It was such a strange case, because I had to do a lot of research on it. Because of this, other ailments started manifesting in his body too. Like, he was starting to have cysts in his stomach because of it. So I was like, oh shit. So what I've got to do is I've got to heal him. And then I was like, hold on, before I go to the healing approach, I've got to get these things out of him. So I started viewing them as actual spirits, as an actual sentient thing. I was exercising these parts of him that were causing him harm, these cysts, these kidney stones, the energy that is infused into those things. And then as I would do that, I would just do some light energy work over top of it. I mean, just like the way that I would see it is just like you would have a cut on you and you would use some antibacterial to clean it out. That would almost be the exorcism, banishing all that dirt inside. And the energy work would also be like the bandage over the top of it. You know what I mean? So if you cut a tumor, you've got to actually make sure that that cut is treated afterwards. So I would do something like that, where I would exercise the actual illness out of somebody, or the actual physical thing that's causing the issue. And then I would just do something over it. And like I do with all my clients, after I've actually done healing on them, I'll do a simple protection over them to make sure nothing like that happens again. Because a lot of people don't understand this, that my wife, for example, now she had these cysts. She actually suffered with cysts herself. And I understood that she had an operation done. This is before I met her. And indeed, months down the line, she's got more cysts. I mean, they're just growing back. So you can get rid of something, but that doesn't mean that it won't reoccur again. So what I did was, when I got with her and we got married and everything, I started looking into this, and I was like, allow me to help you with this, because it's causing you serious illness. I mean, you kind of feel helpless then. So I was like, let me help you. If I can, I will. She agreed, and indeed I was doing some healing work on her cysts. And then when she went to have her operation, they said, well, why are you here? And she was like, well, to have these cysts out, to sort this out. And they were like, no, you're fine. And I was like, I sat there, I was like, what do you mean she's fine? And we got told that she has other cysts, not from what I can see. So I was like, okay. She was like, there just seems to be some inflammation. But where the inflammation was, that's where her cysts used to be. So I was severely confused. I was like, at that moment, I was starting to think, well, is this a spontaneous event then of healing that has completely eradicated the cyst altogether? I mean, I've had moments like this, which I can't even describe for myself. I remember once when I actually broke my hand, and I didn't want to go to the doctor. Typical guy thing, you know, I'll shrug it off. I'll be all right tomorrow. And my partner at the time who I was with was like, go to the doctors, go to the doctors. I'm like, I'm fine, it's not broken. Well, it was. And I decided to do some healing on myself. I used rune work for this. I drew the healing bind rune on my hand, opened it like a sigil, and I had charged this bucket of water in front of me. I had infused it with healing energies and a couple of herbs and oils too. So then when I opened the bind rune, and I done some energy work, I put my hand in the water. Now the energy that was combined with the water and the rune, I could just feel, this was cold water, and all of a sudden I can feel my hand heat up. I was like, well, this shouldn't be happening. My hand is in freezing cold water, and my hands are heating up like hell. When I took my hand out and I put my other hand in, my hand, it got so hot that it started heating up the cold water. And I was starting to move my hands slowly, and I would put my hands back in, and I would recite this this incantation over and over, and I would keep pulling my hand out, slowly moving the hand, and I would keep repeating this. And in the end, my hand was completely fine. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, like you said, we do a lot of this stuff. I mean, I like your approach, because I have a similar approach where you experiment with these things, you know? Like, yeah, sure, this thing's worked and it has a great success rate, but I wonder if there's more. I wonder if you can do more, be better, you know? And that's what I always do. I've combined various methods for all different goals and successes that I am trying to reach. And like I said, magic is like a illogical science. I mean, you have one way to treat an illness, but there are a multitude of ways that you could treat it, which has a better effect.
You know, I couldn't have said it any better, dude. I agree with what you just said 100%. That's an excellent way to look at it. And once you have a success like that, it really becomes an addiction. You know, it's like, oh my goodness, if I can do this, then what else can I do? And there's really no greater feeling of gratification than performing a rite for someone who is suffering or dying of an illness and then watching them recover from it. Like that's the most satisfaction that I've ever gotten as a sorcerer. And you know, healing, not everybody's interested in healing, but it goes so much deeper than your typical, you know, right-hand path practitioner's approach, like the Reiki. I went and saw this famous monk. You know, he was from Nepal. He was over here just touring the U.S., doing seminars and doing Reiki sessions for people. And I went and had a Reiki session done by him. And honestly, I did not experience anything. I laid on the table. He did his hands over me like that. And I got off that table, and you know, the reason I wanted it done is because I was having a lot of back pain at that time. You know, this was early in my practice before I learned how to heal myself, and I was in more pain when I got off the table than I was when I laid down. And not only that, but I felt completely drained by this guy. And he's like 40-something years old. He looked like he was 16, you know. And I really think that a lot of those people are masquerading as wolves in sheep's clothing, taking advantage of people. And that really pissed me off to realize that. And it fueled my motivation so much more to discover ways of healing that actually worked for people and didn't have negative side effects. So yeah, I mean, when people hear the term black magician, they think of this scary guy wearing a hood and a cape and, you know, just cursing people all the time. But no, I mean, black magic is used for our benefit, and we can use it in any way that we want. So, I mean, whether you're healing someone or cursing someone, it's still black magic. You know, it's magic, personal gain and improvement.
I mean, the interesting thing that you brought up there was the fact that there are not many people in the left-hand path that are interested in healing. I mean, the way that I see it is, like you said, people have a typical view of a black magician, right? You know, we're hanging out in graveyards all the time, aren't we? We're sacrificing kittens. I mean, we're wanting people to die for no reason just because they cut us off through traffic. No, nothing like that of the case. I mean, I watched a video that EA Quentin done, and he discusses what his thoughts are on black magic. He says that any magic that causes change must be considered black magic, because you are at that moment telling the divine that what is created, what is formed, isn't right, and that at that moment you are telling divinity itself that it was wrong, and I am going to take this into my own hands. I'm going to be my own divinity, and I'm going to fix your mistake. That's blasphemy. And that is black magic right there. So when you see these white lighters or these right-hand path magicians, and they go, I do this, I do that, and I go, wait, what do you practice? And they say, white magic. And I'm like, yeah, no, you don't. And they're like, yes, I do. I work with angels. I work with, I don't care what you work with. I'm a left-hand path practitioner. Do you honestly think I'm just 24/7 summoning demons? No, I've worked with a lot of light entities. I mean, the way that I see it is, the only difference between what I would consider black magic and white magic, black magic isn't evil. I mean, I think now once you reach a certain stage in your development, concepts of good and evil go away completely. I mean, I don't even believe in entities being good or evil, because they are man-made concepts. They are man-made morals. And once you reach a certain awareness, you ascend above those morals. And at the end of the day, black magic is just a system of spirituality which is limitless, which isn't restricted by dogma. It isn't controlled in any way. It's all about the individual. And the great thing about that is you can cause a lot of great things to happen, and you can cause a lot of terrible disasters to happen. It's the individual, right? I mean, if you go out and you take a gun out today, and something happens with that gun, people go, no, I blame guns, ban guns. I'm like, I don't think the gun shot itself, sir. You know, you can't just ban all guns because the gun didn't do it. The person done it. I mean, I can give a gun to someone now. They can go out and they can hunt down an animal, bring it to their starving family, feed their family. that's a beneficial, good thing to do. And then you get these people that can go out with a gun and start a high school massacre. I mean, it is different, but it's the same instrument. Black magic is like that. You can do good and you can do bad. It just depends on what you want to do with it.
Absolutely. It's very, very good analogy and very well said. And yeah, you know, the black magician has no limits. And ultimately what we are is martial artists and scientists. And doing a black magic ritual to cause change to what already is exactly like you said. That is saying, you know, no, this is wrong, and I'm taking it upon myself to change this through my own will and my own divinity, and that is embracing Godhood. And yeah, I think in the especially in the coming days, we're going to see so many people take up this sword and start operating with that mentality. And that's what's going to change the world. It's people working together, and it's people shedding the dogma and saying, I have no limits, I have no label. This is my reality, and I'm going to do as I will with it. And only good can come with that ultimately. I mean, you might have people doing bad things or misusing it, but ultimately that is also up to each individual to decide. Right and wrong is a matter of opinion and perception, and everyone's is different. So there's no room for judgment. Ultimately, you are the one that is going to judge yourself in the end. And yeah, that's about all I have to add to what you just said. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, I think that's probably a great place to end this chat. This has been one of the best conversations I've ever had with somebody on a podcast. So
yeah, man, it was awesome, brother.
Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add before we close it out?
I mean, well, yeah. So I wanted to touch on one little thing on the concepts of healing and stuff like this. You can also build what's known as your spiritual immune system. In my work with Become a Living God, in the Beelzebub Compendium, I worked with Beelzebub in the form of the Dark Defiler to actually be able to brace one's own toxicity like the Tantrikas of the Agori would do. And what you can do is you are actually exposing yourself to toxic energies in very small doses. And in the end, you, through an alchemical demonic transfer with Beelzebub, you can build a spiritual immunity which makes you immune to most physical ailments. And the work that I've done with that, people are now coming to me and just telling me about healing themselves through embracing one's own toxicity. So if other people are interested in the side of it where you can actually completely destroy these things, or you want to take another look at healing from a different approach, then maybe go look at that too.
Oh yeah, I definitely recommend it. And you know, I've ordered my compendium of Beelzebub. I haven't received it yet, but I really look forward to reading what you wrote, especially after chatting with you today. So yeah, definitely, you guys, if y'all are interested in that, go check out Bulg.com and the compendium of Beelzebub. And yeah, we've got a lot of awesome things coming up really soon. So stay tuned for what happens next. And thank you again for coming on and chatting with me, brother. You and I are definitely going to end up working together, I think. And I look forward to that as well.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, brother. I look forward to working with you in the future, man.
All right, brother. You take care. Have a good night. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will be back again soon.